Oh my, apparently Baldur's Gate 3 is getting hate or something. At least that's what I've seen online. Let me see what the fuzz is all about. Okay. Wait, Elden Ring? Oops. Sorry. Wrong known controversy. I meant this tweet here. So this pity party got a reaction from IGN of all places, with one of their editors going the clickbaity, edgy YouTuber route and posting an inflammatory response to Xalavieres regarding the situation. And my initial reaction was to, like the video and help Dustin Legary bask in the glory of a well-received hot take. But over the last few days, I couldn't stop thinking about the situation because deep down, I knew there was something really distasteful about the whole thing. So yeah, let me share my South Park style take on this whole debacle, in which I'll say how everyone is wrong actually. But before I get to that feel-good conclusion, let me share why I felt the original tweets or axes were problematic. I'll start by saying that I find it really interesting that huge polished games which have received acclaim from critics and players alike have been the target of criticism from devs in just a little over a year. Why is that? Well, I guess we all intuitively know why, but I'll say it anyway. In a broken economic system in which art is reduced to content, and every new release is nothing more than a point in a line graph in a middle manager's PowerPoint presentation, games like Elden Ring or Baldur's Gate 3, which are complete and polished without any live service element or microtransactions, make most devs look bad for not getting the same results. I guess it's easier for them to say these games are unicorns than to take any form of accountability or to, aim their frustrations where it's really warranted. My knee-jerk reaction to this expose comment tweet was to roll my eyes and dismiss its content. Boo-hoo, poor gaming dev, they don't get the support they need or reasonable deadlines from the higher-ups, so it's impossible for them to do the best work possible and then they get blamed for shit like Gollum. Look, I work in education, so if I want to feel sorry for anyone in the labor force, I'll spare that empathy for the next time I look in the mirror. Okay, fine. I crossed the line there, I didn't mean to be mean, but really, that's how I felt immediately after reading these. I had to rationally try to see things from Xalavier's POV to kind of get what he was saying. I guess that's why Twitter brings out the worst in people. It stimulates you to post whatever is in your mind without consideration or any form of self-reflection. Thank God I'm not in that hellhole. But many are and have made their displeasure with Xalavier's hot take publicly known. And again, it's hard for me, even now, not to agree with these edgelords on a more primal, emotional level. Amidst this unchecked, rising cost of living in the 2020s, all of my disposable income has vanished. I literally and figuratively cannot afford to buy multiple day one titles every year. In fact, right now, as a consumer, I have pretty much been phased out of gaming, as I still don't own a current-gen console and my PC isn't up to snuff anymore. I just get to look out the window and creepily stare at people enjoying Baldur's Gate 3 and Final Fantasy 16, wondering if I'll ever be able to enjoy those games. So yeah, if I eventually get to buy a new graphics card or a new console, and then I finally get to buy new games for these machines, I expect better, I demand a Baldur's Gate 3 level product. And if I don't get it, I feel like I have the right to pull a Karen. I might not be able to demand to speak to the manager, but I can shout really loud online. I can make my complaints be heard, whether people like it or not. Look, the last day one game I bought was Cyberpunk 2077 for the PS4. Shit was so bad that I kept it in the box for months and only played it in late 2021. And the only time a crash was more of a constant on my screen was playing Crash Bandicoot, really. I felt used and played by CDPR, who used my attachment to The Witcher 3 to fuck me over so that their shareholders were happy and some asshole in their board of directors could get a juicy bonus to buy a yacht or a second mansion or something. Do I believe the devs behind the game felt as used and played as I did, since they bore the brunt of the complaints regarding the game, and 5 years of their lives went down the drain because upper management didn't want to allocate more budget or time for the game due to some upcoming shareholders meeting? Of course I believe that. Those people probably felt miserable. But if I have to feel bad for anyone in this scenario, sorry if I'm feeling a little bit selfish, and I'll throw a pity party for myself for buying that shit day one and not gaming devs. And I feel like Dustin over at IGN tapped into this bitter feeling that many gamers have, this resentment over not being able to fully participate in capitalism and buy a bunch of expensive optional premium shit. I mean, am I to believe that someone working for IGN for over a decade does not know that publishers are to blame for garbage fire games filled to the brim with microtransactions, not gaming devs? Really? Should this argument be taken at face value?
I'll make this as clear as possible to contextualize how fans are feeling. It feels like money has become more important than the core experience for fans. That's why Elden Ring, Baldur's Gate 3, and even The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom are being widely celebrated. So what is up with the excuses? A game came along that is amazing, is selling well, is being praised by developers and fans alike, and the response is, well, we can't do that. Well, sweet. If that doesn't get me hyped for Mass Effect 4, I don't know what will.
So, why do I think that Xalavier has a defeatist attitude, like it's unreasonable for gamers to have standards and expect finished and polished products for $70? I have to say, from where I stand, Dustin's stance feels a little bit opportunistic. And that's where the South Park feel-good ending comes in. They are both wrong. I get that Xalavier is disillusioned with his profession, gaming development probably didn't turn out as he expected. But hey, I feel the same about education right now. Why is education a business? Why are creative fields like game development a business first and creativity second? We should be able to do our jobs to the best of our ability without having to worry about deadlines or unreasonable demands while being well paid and not having to work so much overtime. That, however, is not the real world. So I get Xalavier's frustration. He probably wishes he was working at one of those allegedly amazing companies which are pro-consumer and, so far at least, haven't been marred by crunch scandals and give their employees the time they need and a great amount of support. In the end, however, from the perspective of a poor gamer, his complaints read as nothing more than the temper tantrum of a frustrated worker. I get it, I've been there. Moving on to the other side of the argument, I think it kind of sucks that IGN went along to capitalize on this one dude's frustration. Because really, who else is complaining about Baldur's Gate 3 setting a new standard? I couldn't find anyone else. Come on. IGN knows devs are not the root of the problem here. Publishers are. Gamers' immediate reaction to push back against Xalavier's complaints shouldn't get the spotlight from such a huge gaming vehicle. Yes, gamers have a right to complain, as most of us cannot afford to waste money on shovelware and are justified in expecting more out of the money we invest on games. But seeing IGN voicing this opinion feels populist. I'm not completely put off by Dustin's video after watching it twice now, just because I don't know if his own full argument hasn't been suppressed by his editor so that IGN can keep big publishers happy and on their side. Either way, that video is not the pinnacle of journalism, and I also expect Baldur's Gate 3 standards from gaming journalists. That video is not that. It's the kind of trashy behavior we normally see coming from desperate YouTubers like myself who are trying to reach 1,000 subscribers to monetize their channel. Like and subscribe.